Imagine this. You dive into the ocean, sink beneath the surface, and instead of scrambling for air or feeling your lungs burn, you simply inhale. Cool, refreshing oxygen flows naturally into your body, just as easily as if you were walking in the park. No tanks. No snorkels. No frantic swims to the surface. Just you, the endless blue, and the freedom to explore a world that has always been just out of reach. Sounds like something from a science fiction movie, doesn't it? But what if, one day, humans could actually breathe underwater? This question matters more than it first appears. Water covers more than 70% of our planet, yet we can only directly live and thrive on the fraction that's dry land. Our oceans hide mountains taller than Everest, trenches deeper than the Grand Canyon, and ecosystems bursting with life that scientists have barely begun to study. Imagine how different human history, and our future, would look if we weren't confined to the land. If humans could breathe underwater, it would reshape travel, industry, science, and even the way we think of ourselves as a species. The challenge, of course, is that our bodies are simply not designed for aquatic life. Unlike fish, we lack gills, the specialized organs that extract oxygen from water. Water does contain oxygen, but it's dissolved in tiny amounts, far less than the air we breathe. Our lungs, magnificent as they are for land survival, just can't process it. That's why drowning happens. Once the oxygen in our lungs runs out, water floods in, and our bodies suffocate. Evolution pushed us firmly onto land millions of years ago, leaving the oceans to other creatures. But humans have always been dreamers, constantly reaching for what seems impossible. Think about flight. For centuries, people looked at birds with envy. They built myths of Icarus flying too close to the sun, or gods soaring across the sky. Flight seemed magical, until technology caught up, and now airplanes carry millions of passengers every day. Breathing underwater could follow the same path. Today it's fantasy, but with science and imagination, it might become reality. Picture a scuba diver. To explore the ocean, they need heavy gear, a wetsuit, oxygen tanks, regulators, and gauges. They train for hours to manage equipment, conserve air, and rise safely without harming their bodies. Even then, their time is limited. Most recreational divers can only stay underwater for 30 to 60 minutes before returning to the surface. Now picture someone else beside that diver, with no gear at all. They simply glide into the depths, breathing easily, free from time limits or equipment. They explore coral reefs as naturally as a fish, swim alongside dolphins, and linger in underwater caves without fear. Which person seems more at home in the ocean? The answer is obvious, and that vision captures why this question excites scientists, futurists, and storytellers alike. Breathing, at its core, is about moving oxygen into our blood and removing carbon dioxide. On land, our lungs are perfect. We breathe in air, oxygen diffuses into our bloodstream through millions of tiny sacs called alveoli, and carbon dioxide flows back out. In water, though, this system doesn't work. Fish use gills, which are thin membranes with a huge surface area, to absorb dissolved oxygen directly. They're so efficient that some fish can survive in waters with oxygen levels that would suffocate us instantly. Our challenge is simple to state but difficult to solve. How do we give humans a way to pull oxygen out of water, just as fish do? That's where science steps in. Researchers are already exploring experimental technologies, from artificial gills to oxygen-absorbing crystals that can store massive amounts of air in small spaces. Imagine a device the size of a backpack, or even smaller, that allows you to inhale water but breathe oxygen. It's no longer just about swimming for fun. If perfected, such innovations could change survival in shipwrecks, rescue operations during floods, or even colonization of oceanic environments in the future. Still, the dream goes further. What if we didn't just rely on devices? What if our very biology could change, through genetic engineering, medical implants, or evolution, to let us breathe underwater naturally? It might sound outlandish, but remember, the same science that makes heart transplants, CRISPR gene editing, and space travel possible once seemed like pure fantasy too. So, the question remains, how do we bridge the gap between what we are and what we could become? The first path toward humans breathing underwater doesn't necessarily require us to evolve gills overnight. It begins with technology. Over the years, scientists and engineers have explored the possibility of creating devices that mimic the way fish breathe. These experimental inventions are often referred to as artificial gills, and they could provide the first practical step toward unlocking the underwater world for humans. To understand it, let's look at the problem in simple terms. Water contains oxygen, but it's dispersed in very small amounts compared to air. Fish gills work by exposing blood vessels to flowing water, allowing oxygen molecules to slip in while carbon dioxide slips out. To replicate this, an artificial gill would need a membrane or material that can efficiently filter dissolved oxygen from water, delivering it into a breathable form. Essentially, it would act like a pump, pulling in water, stripping out oxygen, and releasing the leftover water back into the environment. Scientists have already experimented with this idea. One concept uses hydrophobic membranes, which repel water while allowing oxygen molecules to pass through. Another involves oxygen-absorbing crystals, materials capable of pulling oxygen from their surroundings and storing it at high density. A single handful of these crystals, according to researchers, could store enough oxygen to keep a person alive for hours. Imagine carrying a small device in your mouth or strapped to your back that continuously extracts breathable oxygen as you swim. Suddenly, the heavy scuba tanks we rely on today could be replaced with something as light as a water bottle. The benefits of such technology are enormous. It would revolutionize ocean exploration. Right now, most of the deep ocean remains unmapped and unexplored because divers and submarines have strict limits. With artificial gills, humans could explore coral reefs, shipwrecks, and underwater caves for hours, or even days, without bulky gear. Scientists could study marine ecosystems up close without disturbing them with noisy equipment. Archaeologists could investigate sunken cities or lost artifacts. Imagine what secrets could be uncovered if we had unlimited access to the watery depths. It would also transform rescue and survival scenarios. Every year, floods, hurricanes, and maritime accidents claim lives. If people had access to artificial gills, survival in submerged environments would be far more possible. Rescuers could reach trapped individuals without worrying about running out of air. Entire strategies for disaster response could change, potentially saving thousands of lives. And then there's the impact on recreation and travel. Diving, snorkeling, and underwater tourism would no longer require years of training or expensive equipment. Anyone could step into the ocean and explore freely. Resorts could offer underwater vacations, where guests swim through submerged glass tunnels without needing scuba gear. Children could learn to swim not just across a pool, but through underwater ecosystems, breathing as naturally as they do on land. Of course, challenges remain. Artificial gills must extract oxygen faster than humans consume it, and that's no easy task. Our bodies use oxygen at a much higher rate than most sea creatures because of our size and energy demands. Devices would need to process massive volumes of water quickly, which takes energy. Engineers would need to design systems that are small, efficient, and durable. No easy feat when working underwater, where pressure and temperature can fluctuate dramatically. Another issue is carbon dioxide removal. Breathing isn't just about taking in oxygen, it's also about getting rid of carbon dioxide. If a device delivers oxygen but doesn't vent CO properly, a person could still suffocate. Any artificial gill system would need a balanced design, one that not only extracts oxygen but also safely removes waste gases. Yet the direction of progress is promising. Just as early airplanes looked nothing like the modern jets we fly today, artificial gills may start clunky and experimental but evolve into sleek, reliable tools. The trajectory of technology has always been toward miniaturization and efficiency. The bulky computers of the 1960s became today's smartphones. The same could happen with underwater breathing devices. The possibilities don't stop at recreation or rescue. Imagine underwater farming powered by human presence. As climate change pressures land-based agriculture, researchers are already experimenting with seaweed and algae farming as sustainable food sources. If humans could stay underwater indefinitely, we might cultivate vast underwater gardens, providing new solutions for food and energy. Entire communities could even be built under the sea, with workers breathing freely while constructing homes, research centers, or energy facilities. The hopeful message here is that technology is already paving the way. While we don't yet have perfect artificial gills, each experiment and breakthrough brings us closer. The first people to truly breathe underwater may not be future humans born with gills, but ordinary divers using devices designed to replicate what evolution has given fish. If artificial gills represent the technological path to underwater breathing, the second solution is far more radical, changing humans themselves. Instead of relying on external devices, what if our own biology could be adapted, modified, or enhanced to allow us to breathe underwater? This is where imagination meets cutting-edge science, and while it may sound futuristic, research in genetics and medicine already points toward fascinating possibilities. The idea begins with a simple observation. Nature has already solved this problem in many different ways. Fish use gills to filter dissolved oxygen. Amphibians like frogs can breathe through both lungs and skin. Some turtles can absorb oxygen through membranes in their throats. Even humans, in a limited way, already have a trace of this flexibility. When we are in the womb, before our lungs develop, we rely on our mother's body to provide oxygen through the placenta. This shows that different designs for breathing are possible. It's just a matter of biology. One potential path is genetic engineering. Using tools like CRISPR, scientists can now cut and edit DNA with incredible precision. In theory, if researchers identify the genes responsible for gill formation in fish, or the genes that let amphibians absorb oxygen through their skin, they could try to transfer those traits into humans. The result could be a person born with hybrid traits, lungs for land, gills for water. It may sound like science fiction, but keep in mind that CRISPR has already been used to modify animals to resist diseases, glow in the dark, and even alter their physical features. Another possibility is synthetic biology, where scientists don't just borrow from nature but design entirely new solutions. Imagine bioengineers creating a special implant, made of living cells combined with advanced materials, that attaches to the lungs or chest cavity. This implant could function like a biofilter, extracting oxygen from water as it passes through. Unlike a mechanical device, it would integrate with the body, repairing itself and growing as needed. Medicine already uses synthetic organs like artificial hearts. Extending that to oxygen-extracting systems could be the next frontier. There's also the concept of blood modification. Our red blood cells carry oxygen with the help of hemoglobin. Scientists have already experimented with artificial blood substitutes that can carry oxygen more efficiently than natural blood. If such substitutes were perfected, humans might be able to absorb enough oxygen from water passing over their lungs or skin to survive underwater. In fact, some research has explored injecting oxygen-rich liquids into the bloodstream as a way to keep people alive without breathing air at all. Imagine being able to dive underwater and survive because your blood itself carries enough oxygen to last for hours. The benefits of biological solutions would be extraordinary. Unlike devices, which can break or run out of power, altered biology would be constant and natural. Children could learn to swim underwater from birth, treating the ocean as easily as a playground. Communities could one day build homes under the sea without relying on heavy machinery to survive. Science could take leaps forward. Marine biologists could live among coral reefs for months, and explorers could finally map the darkest trenches of the ocean firsthand. But the everyday applications are just as exciting. Picture a family vacation where you snorkel through reefs without gear, watching colorful fish dart around you as you breathe freely. Imagine athletes training in underwater stadiums, performing routines that blend swimming and dance in ways never possible before. Cities suffering from overcrowding on land might even consider floating or submerged extensions, knowing humans could adapt to living comfortably below the surface. Of course, with such bold possibilities come serious questions. How safe would it be to alter human DNA so profoundly? Would people with gills still look human, or would their bodies change in unexpected ways? Would society embrace these changes, or would underwater breathing humans be seen as something other? And who would control access to such technologies? Would it be a privilege only for the wealthy, or a right for all? Even with these concerns, the prospect sparks hope. Humanity has always pushed the boundaries of what it means to be human. From vaccines that change survival, to prosthetics that extend ability, to space travel that takes us beyond Earth, we constantly reinvent ourselves. Breathing underwater could be the next step in that story. We've imagined humans adapting with technology and even rewriting our biology to breathe underwater. But the most realistic path may not be an either-or choice. Instead, the future could lie in a hybrid solution, a seamless merging of human biology with advanced technology. This approach would combine the adaptability of our bodies with the reliability of machines, creating a future where breathing underwater is not just possible, but practical. Think about how this works in other areas of life. Glasses enhance vision without replacing eyes. Pacemakers regulate heartbeats while working alongside the heart's natural rhythm. Cochlear implants allow people to hear by connecting directly with the nervous system. These are hybrid solutions, technology that doesn't replace us, but extends us. Breathing underwater could evolve in the same way. One possibility is biotech implants that function as semi-permanent artificial gills. Imagine a device the size of a small coin implanted near the lungs, using advanced membranes to extract oxygen from water while syncing with the body's breathing patterns. The implant could even be powered by the body's own energy, like the way pacemakers now use long-lasting batteries. This wouldn't turn humans into fish, but it would give us a new option. When submerged, the device switches on. On land, our natural lungs take over. Another approach is wearable biotechnology. Instead of heavy scuba tanks, we might wear slim, second-skin suits lined with microscopic filters and oxygen processors. These suits could draw oxygen directly from the surrounding water, supplying it through lightweight tubes to the mouth or nose. Imagine a wetsuit that doesn't just keep you warm, but also keeps you alive indefinitely underwater. Combined with smart sensors that monitor oxygen levels, carbon dioxide, and body signals, these suits would make underwater life not only possible but safe. The exciting part about hybrid solutions is their flexibility. They don't require humanity to make irreversible genetic changes, nor do they force us to lug around bulky equipment. They blend convenience, safety, and adaptability. A diver could go for hours without surfacing. A scientist could set up a research station on the seafloor. A family could one day spend a weekend in an underwater resort, breathing comfortably the entire time. The benefits ripple outward. Environmental research would reach new heights. Imagine entire teams of marine biologists living alongside whales during migration, or tracking shark behavior over months instead of hours. Energy industries could expand underwater exploration for renewable sources like wave and tidal power without depending on costly submersibles. Education and tourism could transform, with classrooms moving into aquariums where children swim with fish instead of watching them through glass. But the biggest change might be philosophical. Breathing underwater would challenge the way humans think about our place on this planet. For most of history, the ocean has been a boundary, a vast and mysterious space separating cultures, lands, and lives. With the ability to live in both realms, land and sea, that boundary would dissolve. The ocean would no longer be something we visit briefly, but something we inhabit. It would expand the definition of home to include coral reefs, kelp forests, and deep-sea canyons. Of course, hybrid systems would not come without challenges. Maintenance, safety, and accessibility would all be concerns. How do we ensure implants remain safe and infection-free? How do we guarantee wearable suits don't fail in high-pressure environments? And perhaps most importantly, how do we make this technology available to everyone, not just a privileged few? These questions remind us that innovation is never just about science. It's about ethics, fairness, and responsibility. Yet, despite these hurdles, the overall picture remains inspiring. The dream of breathing underwater is not about abandoning the land, but about expanding human possibility. Just as space exploration opened our imaginations to other worlds, underwater breathing could open us to new realms of our own planet, realms teeming with life, history, and mystery. Imagine future generations telling stories not of trips to the mountains or the beach, but of journeys to underwater villages, where people gather in transparent domes beneath the waves, watching schools of fish drift past as casually as we watch birds fly overhead. Imagine athletes competing in underwater marathons, scientists discovering cures in ocean ecosystems, and artists creating performances that blend music, light, and movement beneath the sea. So where does this leave us? With three key pathways: strengthening technology through artificial gills, exploring biology with genetic or synthetic modifications, and combining the two into hybrid systems. Each path carries promise and challenge, but together they form a vision of a future where humans are no longer bound by the surface of the water. And perhaps that's the most important takeaway. Breathing underwater is more than just a survival trick. It's a metaphor for human potential, the drive to go beyond limits, to imagine the impossible, and to turn dreams into reality. Just as our ancestors once looked at the sky and longed to fly, we now look at the ocean and long to join it. History shows that when humans dream boldly enough, the line between fantasy and possibility fades. So, the next time you stand at the edge of the sea, take a deep breath and imagine, what if you could simply dive in and keep breathing? What if the ocean was not a barrier but a second home? That vision may belong to the future, but every step of science, technology, and imagination brings it closer. And when it arrives, it won't just change how we live, it will change how we see ourselves, our planet, and the vast blue world that has always